Get it out. I have been married for almost 10 years and have 3 children. I'm 34 and my wife is 31. My 3-year-old has a condition, which has meant he needs a lot of care, and it's been a stressful couple of years since he was diagnosed, but he is starting to do well now and recover. Over the course of our marriage, we have had a number of problems. I had a gambling problem which almost broke me 3 years ago. I have recovered, but it took a lot of support from my wife. It made me depressed and quite miserable at times, and undoubtedly this affected her. But she forgave me at the time and we worked through it. 18 months ago, my wife lost 5 stones in weight, changing her appearance and making her much more confident. She took over the slimming business which she used to lose the weight. This has meant over time we have seen less of each other. Sharing, looking after the kids and covering for each other while we work, etc. It's been a tough time. Before the kids we were very romantic, but gradually as we had more kids, we became more practical, which I guess is normal. I had a vasectomy to stop us having more children with the idea that it would help us become romantic again, but despite a few phases this has not really happened. 3 months ago, we got a family dog from an old friend of both of ours, but someone she knew from school days. He had separated from his wife and couldn't take the dog with him to his new rented house. After we got the dog, he sent her a few texts asking how the dog was, but unbeknown to me they also discussed a lot about their lives, particularly how unhappy my wife was. At around the same time, my wife started to go out socializing a lot more with her friends from the neighborhood, often coming in very late. A month ago, my wife started suggesting she was unhappy and felt like our marriage was in trouble. I didn't suspect another man on the scene, just presumed it was a result of everything we had been through. However, I eventually forced it out of her that she had been having a relationship with this other guy, dog man, both physically and also meeting up, talking. Since I found out, I tried to talk her round and stayed at the house for a while whilst we have talked a lot. She goes on about the past a lot, but she has blatantly carried on the affair in front of me, staying at his house a couple of times when she needed space and also meeting him at the park and cafes with my kids as they all know his name and he gave them sweets, etc. A month has passed now and I've moved out of the house and am devastated by it all. She has removed all memories of me from the house and has been seen with him by my friends, with the kids and without. She says what she feels with him is different, but she seems to be moving very fast. I called round the other day and he was at the house during the day with his daughter and my kids, and it made me feel very sick. I am struggling to deal with the whole situation. Everything is happening so fast that I can't think in 3 months that she is willing to give everything we had up for this other guy who she seems to want to spend every hour of the day with. I can't work out if she is having some kind of midlife crisis. Actually wants this guy, doesn't want me. It's very confusing and every day seems to go on forever. I feel like I have made a fool of myself by getting upset and pleading with her to think about what she is doing, but I am struggling to control my emotions. I am trying to just let them get on with things, but it's very hard. Not only does it feel I am losing my wife and family, I feel I am losing it to another man, and also fast. I still see the kids, but not overnight as I have no new home as yet, so I feel they think I have deserted them, and when I see them they are upset that I can't stay. Everyone says I need time, but it's hard to get through each day without thinking about her and them. She has said to me that she is much happier since I have left and that a huge weight has been lifted off her shoulders. She says it's almost like she has woken up. She says she doesn't know if that's the new man, her weight loss, being a businesswoman, or our history, or a combination of all of them. I believed her at the time, but the amount she sees the new man in her life and the fact she blatantly does it makes me think it is that has been the major factor. I feel she is bound to be happy because she has something new in her life. As you say, a better option than where she was before. She still lives in the house with the kids and they are on school holidays here in the UK, so there is little pressure of after-school clubs and running around to be done, as the 3 of them are together most if not all of the time. I have tried to stay strong and have been to the doctor for sleeping pills which have helped. I am a very sporty person and eat healthily anyway, so that's not a problem, although I have lost a lot of weight through stress and skipping meals due to feeling sick. I have taken the view to leave her be, but going back to the house to see the kids and not having a pre-arranged day to see them for long periods of time mean that I have to talk to her a fair bit to organize that. I am torn as to how quickly to find my own place to live so I can have them overnight. It seems a big commitment away from the marriage to do that, but like you say, at the moment there is no reason for me to think she is going to change her mind in the short term. I am currently staying at my mom and dad's. I can see the kids no problem, and the only reason she is at the house is because the kids are so young and I leave for work at 7 a.m. and get back at 5 a.m. whereas she works shorter hours so can get them to school, and now it's the holidays, can get them to childcare the days she is working. The kids ring me and I've spent a fair bit of time with them so far, which is great. They are just sad I am not at the house and do talk about stuff they have done with other man and my wife, which is tough to take at this point. My wife still refers to me as her best friends and wept on me when we told the kids for a long time that evening just 2 weeks ago. Things are still very raw. I'm more sad than angry at the moment, to be honest, as are all her family. Mine and our friends, because lots of people know us and also know the other man, so it's common knowledge. Again, which is tough. Not having a good day today, really finding it hard to let go. I am seeing the kids but also of course seeing my wife at the same time and find it really hard not to talk to her about the situation. When I do, she is unmoved and I always feel stupid for trying when I come away. The kids are very confused and upset by what's happening, especially as she is spending time with the OM around them and they are getting concerned that he is around more than daddy when I talk to them. I feel very sad and lonely. She went out on Sunday when I had the kids and came back having spent the afternoon drinking with him. I've also found out she is going to a wedding with him in a week or so's time when I have the children for a couple of days. We are still being generally amicable and I can see she is struggling living on her own with the kids, but I've not got my own place yet as I paid the bills this month before she gets her benefits. She says her relationship with the other man is a slow burner, which makes me wonder what is going to happen with the house. Whether they will move into together. He says they will. She doesn't seem to want to commit to him because it's too soon. It's all just a mess. I somehow need to keep telling myself that she is having an affair and she doesn't want me anymore. She keeps playing down her affair and blaming the fact she has changed in our past, but I am sure she is just trying to be nice to me. I am trying to find somewhere to live, but it's difficult financially to find a home to rent big enough for the 3 kids to stay over whilst paying maintenance and keeping up the mortgage payments on the house, as at the moment we've not decided what to do about the house, so have to keep paying the mortgage to keep a roof over the kids' heads. I'm trying my best not to think about her today, but it's really difficult. Not seeing her or the kids till Thursday, and it seems such a long way off. I moved out of the house because the kids need to live there as it's near their school and friends, and I didn't want to unsettle them any more than necessary. I leave for work early in the morning, so I'm not able to take the kids to school and don't get back in time to pick them up, so my wife is staying in the house for now so she can do that. I moved to my mom and dad's to save up to get a new place to live. We have a joint mortgage, so in time we will either sell the house or she can buy me out. Or if she moves out with other man, then I will move back in. With regard to him playing dad, I spoke to her about this tonight. The kids just see him as one of their friends' dads and he has not been staying overnight at the house. I go there 3 nights a week to put them to bed now and also have them split time over weekends. Sometimes at the house, and she goes out of the way so it's not as bad as it may have appeared. I agree that she has the best of the deal, but I am so conscious of the kids moving out of their home when they are so happy there that maybe I am just putting them first for a while. I do regret a little moving out of the house, but it didn't help me mentally coping with the situation immediately. Trying to overtalk the situation and lots of begging and pleading meant it was very difficult. I've found it easier moving out. It's 3 weeks since I moved out now and 5 weeks since she told me about the affair. I probably worked it out a week before that. I'm doing slightly better. I still miss her and the security of being in a relationship, as most of the time I just feel sick and can't concentrate on anything else I'm doing properly. That easing though. I'm not going for the 180 yet, although I have stopped talking about us a couple anymore. She is starting to notice things I am doing differently and is starting to ask me more what I am doing, which I find interesting more than anything else. She is taking the kids away for a few days next week and I am meeting her there to take over the rest of the week. We have a 2-night crossover at the place we are staying to make the transition easier for the kids, so that will be interesting. I'm just trying to concentrate on the things she mentioned I might have not done so well in our marriage and think about how I can make myself a better person moving forwards. Part of me hopes she notices that and realizes, if her affair fails, that she perhaps let it cloud her judgment of what we really had together. But that's not my main aim. If it happens, it happens. I've had a shocking day over here in the UK today. Yesterday, Sunday, I packed the kids off with their mum to Wales on holiday and moved back into the family home for a few days until I go down to meet them. I'm not sure if it was the house with little trace of me in it, the fact that the kids are away with her somewhere where we go every year, or the fact that I saw her and she looked so great. Probably a combination of all of them that seems to have set me back. I caved in with a stupid, "I still love you," which got me a huge hug from her. Again, which probably didn't help me. I have agreed in principle on a new place to rent for 6 months. Big enough for me to have all 3 kids over and a bit of a garden for them to play in. It's ideal really, and everyone thinks it's a good idea. I just can't get interested in it at all. I've had all her family and extended family call me since they went, showing support, saying they all love me and most of them offering me stuff for the new house. Furniture, etc. It's nice, but at the same time a bit weird. They all hate the way she is behaving and she isn't talking to them at all about the situation. I went to see a neighbor who is one of her best friends and knows about the situation and is also leaving her husband. Conveniently, she weirdly said she wasn't leaving me for the OM and that he wants to move in with her in a few months, but she doesn't. It's all very confusing and still raw for me, but she appears more than happy with the situation, on the outside anyway, and through the OM has a new circle of friends and social life which she engages in when I've got the kids. It's tough to deal with, I have to admit. A week later, today is my birthday. 35. We've been separated for about 7 weeks now, and I've just come back from a holiday with my kids where I spent a couple of days with my wife too. We managed to talk about our problems and we both admitted our faults. I want to fix them, she doesn't. She spoke about the OM, saying he wanted her more than she wanted him. That she was wary of moving too fast with him for the kids. It was all very bizarre. I told her I had somewhere to live and she was okay with it but worried about the finality of it all. We got on just as before, without any affection towards each other. But when she left and probably spent time with the OM, I've come back to the same old frosty her who doesn't want to talk about anything but practicalities. On holiday she said, after a glass of wine or two, that she didn't want a divorce. But now she says that's only because it is a bit soon. I've decided to leave her be, sad as it is. Move on into my new house. It's a killer though, feel my best friend has gone. And the fact that she has gone to someone else makes me even more sad. I spoke to someone today who knows the other man and my wife's affair. He had a drink and let slip that they are hopelessly in love, spend every minute together they can together and are both happier than they have ever been in their lives. It's so hard to take as she is trying her best to be nice to me and lying about how serious her relationship is with him. It's only been about 4 months. 2 since I found out, to me and her family to protect herself. I so want things to be different but I am finding it impossible to let her go. Weeks later, I moved into my own rented house on Sunday. The first couple of days have been really strange but it does feel good to have a little independence from my parents who have been looking after me for a month. I went back to the house last night and removed some things like the TV. One of the sofas etc. spoke to my wife and she was saying she had struggled emotionally whilst I had been moving in and when I left last night she was in tears. Is this just the guilt of what she is doing to me finally kicking in? It's still really hard to see her upset though. She just emailed me to apologize for crying. The thought of me being sad on my own in my new house and it all being her fault is taking its toll, she says, followed by her saying that maybe she isn't a heartless bee after all. Weird how someone else can make your life such a mess in such a short space of time. I have read a lot about the 180. I can see the plus side of it but it's very difficult for do it in full because I have 3 very young kids and they take a lot of sorting out between us, so at the moment we have pretty much daily communication about them. The youngest has juvenile arthritis too. He's 3. So we need to inject him twice a week together, so no contact is pretty difficult. I am getting better at not talking about us as much. She does know that I would prefer to work at my marriage than end it. That might give the impression of a safety net, but I guess the less I talk about it and the more I try to move, the more she might wonder if that is still the case. I am going to leave it a little while until I get settled in my new house before I start thinking about divorce and what to do about the old house. I have enough to think about at the moment. I think. Comments. The 180 degrees is not a tool for the purpose of manipulating an unfaithful spouse to return to the betrayed spouse and work their tail off to rebuild the marriage. What the 180 degree is, it's a tool to emotionally strengthen the betrayed spouse so that he or she can move on with his or her life with or without their unfaithful spouse. It has nothing to do with no contact or going dark on the unfaithful spouse. OP responds, I've been doing a lot of thinking in the last week or so and been settling into my new house. I was doing really well until last night when I had a bad night with the kids and felt really sad about everything. I went to see her the next day and without even thinking started pouring my heart out to her. I'm so mad with myself for it, but it's done. I see what you are saying about doormat behavior and you are right. I need to man up a bit more. I just guess I've never been in this situation before and learning what is best to do is hard because it goes against your natural reactions. I have a feeling thing with the other man are cooling a bit. He certainly isn't seeing my kids at all now. I've put a stop to that and she agreed it was wrong and she apologized for it. She still maintains she is happier on her own, although in the time when I have the kids, I am sure she isn't. I've told her that I don't want my marriage back, not the way it had been for the last year, and that if we ever did get back together it would have to be totally different. She agreed and said maybe in time, who knows. I know from what I've read that is probably seen as cake eating, but it kind of suits me because it gives me time to work out what I want from life and whether, despite my heart saying I love her, whether I really still do. Days later, I am having a really bad morning. Spent nearly all weekend with my kids. Had a great time, but all I seemed to be able to think about was my wife having free time and spending it with the other man. I have no idea whether she was or not, apart from I know they were in a pub together in our town on Saturday night. I dropped the kids off and she looked exhausted, like she had been up all night. I have all the right thoughts to cut her out of my mind, but I just find it impossible to do. I just picture a life of picking up and dropping off the kids. I love having them, but not seeing them every day is killing me. I decided that the time for begging and pleading was over. Probably too late, but at the end of the day I found it hard to stop when I saw her, and I have to see her loads because of the kids. Injecting my son for his illness, etc. Since I've stopped begging, relationship with my wife have improved no end. Almost getting on too well, which is now causing me a problem. It's impossible, this situation. I find myself in a situation where I feel close to my wife again and I can't work out if she is just being nice out of guilt because she doesn't want to reconcile. She seems to just want to be friends. Maybe, who knows? I know cake eating, but we have always been a very close couple, best of friends, and I find it impossible to turn off, as does she. It's like she can bring herself to do bad things to me, but she can't bring herself to say bad things to me. I need some strength from somewhere. I'm doing rubbish on my own even with supportive friends and feel desperately down today. Had no sleep last night and yet woke today somehow to the realization that my marriage is almost certainly over. I have been taking strides to improve myself and doing so despite the emotional setbacks of the separation. We had been getting along better and she said this morning that she hoped it wasn't confusing me. She said she didn't feel any different at all despite my efforts. I suggested we should talk about divorce. She said she hadn't thought about it, but if it would give me some closure then maybe we should. I feel deflated and left with 3 kids to look after 3 nights a week on my own, one of which has arthritis whilst my wife has the love and affection of her other man and lots of her friends. I still find it all ridiculous, but last night when she dropped the kids off, I politely asked her where she was going in the evening. She said she was going to the pub with other man. It's the first time she has openly told me she was going somewhere with him without lying about it or playing it down. I didn't take it too well and we had what for us were crossed words. We rarely used to row at all. She basically said that our whole marriage had been based around me and I hadn't cared about her at all. It was upsetting to hear, and I feel that in the 3 months since she dropped the bomb I hadn't really moved forward enough. I guess starting today is where I need to realize that she doesn't want me at all anymore and the situation I am in is here to stay rather than hoping that it will somehow rectify itself in time. People say to me that 3 months is no time at all, but to me it feels like an age, and in that time, despite getting my own place, arranging to have the kids 3 nights a week and doing things with them at the weekend. In terms of letting go of my wife, I've not really achieved anything, whereas she seems much more comfortable with the whole situation. I must now try and have less contact and try and move on for me, maybe go back to see the doctor and ask for some counseling. Her words and comments about our marriage lend me now to believe that there is nothing about me she is going to miss in terms of reconciling, so it must be all about healing me rather than doing things to make her want me back. Sad as that is to come to terms with, I wish I had the strength that some people have on here to move on. Days later, I had the kids overnight last night and took them to school this morning. I really enjoyed it, and when I told them they were coming to my house on Thursday and Friday night they were really excited. They have also started referring to her house as Mummy's house rather than home, which had been annoying me because it was Daddy's house and home before. She emailed me this morning to ask how they had been. I kept it short and said they had been great and really enjoyed it. She replied saying she was pleased and that they were handling it well, but that the house always seemed quiet without them. Well, she had better get used to that, I suppose. It's a shame for her she doesn't see the effort I am making, but I am working my way to realizing that it's her loss. My wife called round at the house with my youngest son and we talked properly without me getting upset about us, the past and the present. She basically said that she had feelings for another man that she couldn't stop and she couldn't see us working again in the future. She never wanted to be divorced, that I broke her heart with my gambling addiction, and that she never wanted to love anyone else. She's never coming back, I have to face it. Sometime later, I had a good weekend. Practically ignored the wife when I picked and dropped off the kids, but it was a lovely late summer's weekend here in the UK and she looked gorgeous, so that was particularly difficult to take. Went for a drink with a friend last night and had a great time until our wedding song came on at the end of the night and I got a bit upset, which put me in a bad mood today. Typically, I got an email off her about money this morning and it turned into a bit of a debate with her saying I was doing this and that and not giving her enough. She had miscalculated it. She said I was always nasty to her after I'd been out the night before. I made the mistake of admitting I was upset because of how good she looked and our wedding song being in the pub. She just said she was sorry and she knew it was hard. It's 3 steps forward, 1 step back for me at the moment. Although better than 1 step forward and 3 back, which it was a few weeks ago. Onwards and upwards, I guess. It's also my 10-year wedding anniversary on Thursday, which isn't particularly helping. I can't work out if she feels sorry for me or what, but she seems to think I'll just take it all in my stride. It's been 3 months, but for her it seems like a lifetime and she is just living her life normally with someone else. It's almost like it's a relief for her when I look after the kids 3 nights a week so she can see him. I've heard she also stays at his house when he has his daughter. I'm getting closer and closer to filing for divorce. I've always said to myself that I wouldn't do it unless I could wake up the next day and be happy that I've done it. So far, I've not felt that way, but something has to give soon. She says she hasn't thought about divorce, but it might be good closure for me. How kind of her. It just seems wrong to me in such a short space of time to end something that's been 10 years in the making. Looks like I'll have 2 though. Scary as that is. Feeling a little confused today. Had to go to the wife's house last night to drop off some soccer kit for my son. During the day yesterday I had spoken to my gambling counselor who helped me stop 4 years ago. almost to the day. I explained to him that the biggest regret that I had was that I didn't admit to my problem to everyone afterwards and put too much pressure on my wife to keep it under wraps. It made me not be true to myself, and I admitted it caused a strain on our relationship. For some reason, when I called in to see her, I explained to her what I had explained to him. It all came out. It's the first time since D-Day, 3 months ago, that I got any sort of reaction from her. It was almost like it was the answer she had been searching for ever since my problems ended. She was very emotional, and as I was leaving, she hugged me and then kissed me very passionately for a few minutes. When she pulled away, she looked visibly upset. She said, "I'm sorry, that's not fair," and that she felt her head was going to explode. All I could say was that it was okay. And she said, "But it's not okay. I don't really know what to make of it all, really. Since D-Day, I have told anyone and everyone about my problems, and it's made me feel free at last. The only good thing about what's happened." She said she wished I'd done it and told her everything I told her a year ago. I don't know, just seems like a mess. So that was an interesting week. Passionate kiss with the STBX on Tuesday after an emotional evening chatting about stuff. Wedding anniversary Thursday. Finally spoke to her about what happened on Saturday, and she said it should never have happened. Was a mistake and not to tell anyone. There's a surprise. I said to her yesterday that I was going to get the house valued so I didn't have to pay the mortgage, and she said fine. Spoke to my wife this morning about something other than the kids for the first time for a few days. I'm in no doubt now that she has no interest whatsoever in being married to me anymore. She just wants to sort the house and make sure the kids don't get screwed up. She says she enjoyed being married, otherwise she would have ended it sooner, and that I shouldn't have gambled. She shouldn't have had an affair, but both things happened, so time to move on and make sure the kids don't suffer from our mistakes. Amazing how simple things are from the other side. I think I talked too much to her, so she is almost at the point where she would welcome me going a bit dark and getting on with my life rather than becoming intrigued as to what I am up to. I just need to let her get on with whatever she is doing. I have worries about the effect it's going to have on the kids if the affair continues, but I just need to put that out of my mind a day at a time. My friend keeps saying to me to forget about the future and deal with the now. I have no idea what's going to happen for her or me or the kids in the future, and worrying about it will only make things worse. I've had a pretty good couple of days. Had absolutely no contact with her for over 2 days. Not even about the kids, so was a nice break. Went to watch a soccer game with my dad Tuesday and out for a beer and a meal with one of my old neighbors last night. All good. Got an email from her today asking about a birthday present for our daughter. Coming up soon. I just thought for a bit and agreed to go 50-50 on a bike for her, even though it will probably stay at the wife's house, not mine. Felt good about that. It's her birthday, not mine, and she needs to know that mom and dad still love her no matter what. I picked up the kids tonight as normal and was polite, but for some reason I avoided eye contact with her altogether. Even when doing my son's injection, as I was leaving after a stress-free handover. She just said to me, "You can't even look at me, can you?" I just said, "Oh sorry, I was just sorting out the kids," and looked straight at her. It was strange. I asked for my soccer boots from the house and she was interested in why I wanted them, but I just didn't say much, and she got the hump with that side and went back in the house. I'm not sure how she expects me to be with her, but it suited me to be how I was, and I've not been upset after seeing her, which is good news. Had a terrible day yesterday. I've been doing really well. Had the kids all day Saturday and dropped them back at the house Sunday morning at 9 a.m. When I turned up, the OM's car was there. The kids said, "Oh look, Stuart is here." Ran into the house and proceeded to show him the stuff they had made when they were with me. He was just lying on my old sofa, hungover as my STBX. I just lost it and swore at her, told her she was a disgrace, and went home and bawled my eyes out for hours. She spoke to me later asking what the problem was. I just said it was too soon, insensitive, and she seemed to think it was fine. She said she'd never got over the lies from my gambling and that she lost her soulmate years ago. That she had to deal with our son's illness practically on her own, and that she could finally be herself, seeing as I never put her first. She was free to do what she wanted in her free time now. The kids like the OM, so there was no problem. I just don't know what to do, really. I've apologized for my gambling, but feel I'm going to have to get over everything all over again, and all hope, if there was any, is totally gone. I know I can do it, and I will. I just wish I had more strength to get through it. I saw her today when she came to do the injection. I love doing them for my son. He's not well at the moment and he needs as much support as possible, so I refuse to let someone else do it. It's about him, not me. I spoke to her for a while about him, as it's likely he'll need some more treatment, and was just myself, normal if a little indifferent, and spoke only about the kids. She left and I didn't feel a thing for once, just sadness that I wouldn't see the kids for 2 days. At the end of the day, it seems pretty clear that she will do what she wants. If I want to be myself in the future, I may just be myself now rather than force myself to be horrible to her. To make her feel bad, I just want to make myself feel good. Days later, my STBXW continues to act a little weirdly. I hear she is still happy with her new man, yet some of the things she has said to me are odd. She asked how my family were and I said fine. She said she missed them, but obviously talking to them isn't the right thing to do. She also said things were hideous from her point of view too. She didn't like people ignoring her or talking about her. She didn't want to go anywhere and even had to choose different places to walk the dog so she didn't see anyone she vaguely knew. She has been much more friendly in her contact with me as I have just been normal. We are going to the hospital tomorrow without Son and she suggested we go out for lunch after so we can discuss things like Christmas and the house. To be fair, I'm fine with that. She probably just thinks I've accepted things now and she can be nice to me. I've come to the realization that my marriage is well and truly over. She is not interested at all in reconciliation. Rewriting history by saying she was never enough for me when she was. EOM is around the children all the time now, 4 months after D-Day. He even looked 2 of them on his own last Sunday whilst she took my eldest son to soccer. I've been doing the 180 as much as possible with the contact needed for the kids. Fallen off a couple of times, but I'm trying not to be too hard on myself about it because my whole world has been turned upside down, so I'm bound to have a few bad days. I've been on a sort of date, just with an old friend, really enjoyed myself. She found out about it but wasn't bothered at all. She's so matter-of-fact about everything, not sure if it's fog or she just doesn't care at all. All very sad, but I'm just keeping on as best I can. As for the 180, it's interesting. I'll admit at first, I started it hoping that it would make her change her mind even though I know that's not what it's for. However, the more I do it, the more I realize it's for my own benefit. For example, the kids came over to stay for a couple of days this morning and they were exhausted as OM and his daughter had a sleepover with them. Varied tales of who was in whose bed without questioning from me. Poor kids must wonder what's going on. Thankfully, they are young enough not to read too much into it. Personally, a week or 2 ago it would have made me angry. Today it just made me more determined to ignore her and get on with my own life. Not had a great day. Kids came to stay tonight and oldest boy said that he went into mom's room this morning and found OM in there for the first time. Was upset and said he wished it was daddy. I had no idea he was staying there as we agreed that she would tell me if anything like that or him moving in was going to happen. She is so blaze about it, saying well as long as he wasn't upset then that's fine. I just told her she was playing a dangerous game and left it at that. Totally does my head in this stuff. I keep telling myself that I'll be better in the end. And don't get me wrong, I'm getting better already. A while ago something like this would have had me in floods of tears and set me back. An hour or so later now and I'm pretty philosophical about it. I don't know if she'll regret it or not. He doesn't seem like the kind of bloke that would want to take on 3 kids. One of whom needs pretty much constant care for his illness. But at the end of the day that's up to them. Just wish she would be more upfront about what she's doing. I'm not sure why a few months down the line she still has to keep everything a secret for fear of upsetting me. Jesus, does she think I've not been upset already? Feeling a little down today as it is my daughter's 6th birthday. The first time it's been one of my kids' birthdays and I've not woken up with them and seen them open their presents. I spent all day Saturday with her and her mum at her birthday parties and then yesterday collecting her new bike and dropping it off at her mom's so she could have it first thing this morning. Trying to be the best dad I can be for the kids, which means sometimes you have to do things you don't want to or agree with to stop them being upset. It's rubbish. Week later, found out last week that I'll be losing my job in February, which with my history of gambling is a huge problem for me with the rent at my new place to pay and maintenance for the kids when I don't have them. I had a very dark few days when I just had the feeling that everything in my life was just going wrong and found it very difficult to function. I had a hospital visit with my STBXW on Monday for my son. It made me realize that I just can't do it anymore. The constant contact with her, seeing the kids so much and doing so much for my son with his illness is too much. I can't be just friends with her as much as she wants it, and the current situation is not helping me at all. I've made the decision to have the kids less during the week. Moving my work around to do it for the last few months has not helped my job, and when I get a new job it will more than likely be much less flexible, so I'm not going to be able to have the kids overnight during the week and I'm going to turn into the weekend dad that I dreaded would happen. I am trying to find the strength from somewhere to get over the guilt of not being there for my kids as much as I want, purely to get my own life back on track. It's difficult, but I feel I need to do it. My comment, sometimes you kind of just let the young ones go in order to live your life. Have you been in a similar situation? I got one more in the afternoon. Let me